Hey Faith family, welcome to the Beyond Sunday podcast at Calvary Bible, where we go beyond the Sunday sermon to explore some rabbit holes and to bring some biblical truths to the surface. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. All right, Calvary Bible Church, welcome. Pilot episode here, episode 0 of Beyond Sunday. So we don't know what we're doing, but thanks for jumping on with us, and hopefully this is helpful to you. So what we want to do here today is accomplish just a few things in this first episode. First, what in the world did we want to name this thing? I had some bad ideas, really bad ones. Randy had a couple of nerdy ones that weren't good. And then Jordan here was able to help us out with a cool one. So anyway, really helpful. But why a podcast? What does this format help us do? Not just in the middle of the week, but also on a Sunday morning. And then finally, what are we trying to accomplish just as a church? How is this podcast helping us accomplish that? And then if we have time, we're going to dive into last Sunday's sermon. So you're going to be watching this after the Outreach Summit, but we're going to jump back a week into Psalm 51. And yeah, we're excited. So Randy, welcome.
Thank you.
You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah.
All of our faith family.
Yeah. Randall Pelton, one of the pastors at Calvary Bible Church.
Mm-hmm. Doctor. Do you have 2 doctorates?
Not yet.
But you have 1.
I have 1.
Working on 2. I'm going to call you Doctor.
Thank you.
All right. Now, Randy's got a great brain. I'm hoping to pick it a little bit. And I've got a very simple brain. And so hopefully you guys can track with me. All right. So names. Randy, what did you want to name this thing?
The best thing I came up with was something about etc.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about what does etc. mean?
Uh-huh.
And we were hoping for something that would be additional to some of the Sunday morning teaching stuff.
Right. You told me what etc. was the definition of, wasn't it? Isn't it like more of the same
or something? It's like,
yeah.
I thought, well, they were bored to tears on Sunday, so if I could accomplish more of the same,
yeah,
during the week, that's just ideal.
That's good.
So,
yeah, it goes right along with like footnotes and endnotes and
it's nerdy.
IEs and EGs and goodness.
I know.
Yep.
I know.
So that's where Randy's mind went. Mine went to the second chew, which is
gross.
Not a tobacco thing. It's more of like, cows have multiple stomachs. You just meditate on the scriptures.
Yeah.
And I know Ray Newland was a fan of that one.
I didn't like it.
Yeah,
so thank the Lord
I did.
We didn't choose it.
Anyway, yeah. So the second chew, and anyway, we landed on Beyond Sunday, which I think is really clean.
Yeah.
It's smooth. It rolls off the tongue. But more than that, like it's going to help us think about what it looks like to live as God's people beyond Sunday.
Yeah.
And so I hope you guys can resonate with that. And yeah, that's what we're going to try and do here. So those are some of the names. Why a podcast? It just seems like a really neat way to use technology. And so I think you would resonate with this. As technologies come out, they're not good or bad in and of themselves, but we got to figure out how to leverage them for the kingdom. And so this podcast is a way to, whether you're listening to it online or watching it via video, it's a way for a 20-minute, that's kind of our goal, to keep this thing around 20 minutes, just so folks can carve out that time, whether it's in the car or, in the evening, at home, wherever it is, to just...
And some people even at work.
Yeah, exactly.
Depending on what they do for work.
Honestly, I think of a couple of our guys that are working on the farm.
Yeah.
Just the opportunity to plug in and on the tractor.
Yeah.
And take, so kind of like a midweek touch point, just to kind of rehash where we were on Sunday, remind us of those things. And some of the goals will be to, again, Randy's ability to handle the original languages is superb. And so I'm thankful for that. So sometimes like there might be a Hebrew word, for example, that is used in more places than just the text we're in, or that it could be filled out a little bit more. So we could, take some of those things and kind of tease them out. But also I think the opportunity to take some of these really, really important theological truths that are all throughout the scripture and then say, what's that mean for us on a Tuesday? Do you know what I mean? Beyond Sunday, what's that mean for us to live that out? So So yeah, that's kind of why we chose a podcast, and it's, our attempt to use technology for God's glory.
And just the way you guys did with you and Rich did for Pastoral Touchpoints too, was during COVID, was that was a great attempt to keep connecting to the people, keep shepherding. And so this is another good way to leverage the technology. Thankfully we've got somebody like Jordan that can help us pull it off. Yeah,
great example of God's people using their gifts. Yeah, and so that reminds me, though, too, of just the opportunity we have to listen differently, knowing that there's a podcast. So what we want to introduce you to is an email that you can submit questions to. The email is podcast, PODCAST, podcast @cbcmj.com. So I know my own mind and heart, and as I'm listening on a Sunday, knowing that I can, ask a question, because I'm not MJ, I'm not Dan Pierce, I'm not going to raise my hand and just chime in on a Sunday. But knowing that there's this opportunity, I'm going to take some of those questions and write them down. And then those are the kind of things I'm hoping we can just kind of, again, tease out, unfold, and see, where they go. And so, Faith Family, you guys have that opportunity too, to write a question in, email it to that email address, podcast@cbcmj.com, and we'll get those, bring them to the table, probably be able to condense them. So I'm sure there'll be some similarities. If you've got some smart aleck comments, those are always appreciated. And just be a neat way to interact midweek, and while we're actually sitting in the chairs on a Sunday morning, be able to, I think, listen differently. Any other thoughts?
No, I look forward to the opportunity, of course, to follow up with, the number of emails and interactions that I get during the week. I mean, most weeks people are writing stuff in, either that or a phone call. So that'll be, I'm looking forward to it. I think the greatest thing is just the opportunity to continue to try to help folks on their faith journey during the week, extending some of the teaching a bit, maybe doing a little more than we can in those limited minutes, because at the end it's always inevitable. We're always rushing, and I would always love, of course, to say, what else could this look like? But so it'll be good.
Yeah, I was smirking because you said limited minutes, and so 53 minutes is very limited.
They are.
It is, yeah, no doubt, and I feel that too. The times I get to teach, there's always more that you can. I was saying to Randy the last time I taught, I had this kind of section off to the side that I knew if I had time, I'd want to get there, but I just didn't have time because people get hungry, and we live in America.
Yeah.
But no, you touched it, like what we're trying to accomplish, just taking that teaching time a little bit further, which is at the end of the day, kind of the goal of this podcast. We want to think creatively and innovatively about what we're doing as a church. What's our end goal? And we say often around here, that was your cue.
Well, I was trying to think of which response. So God is good all the time.
Yeah. We do
teaching people to do things Jesus said to do.
Ding, ding, ding.
Or what else could we come up with?
That was it. No, we do say a few things all the time. But no, teaching people to do the things Jesus said to do. So coming straight out of the Great Commission, understanding that making disciples is what Calvary Bible Church is about from beginning to end. And this is just part of that growing process, sharpening, loving God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength.
Let me just throw this out too.
Yeah.
You talk about we use that slogan, of course, coming straight from the scriptures, teaching people to do the things that Jesus said to do. So one of the great questions, of course, is how do you obey a song? How do you obey a psalm? That's what, those are some of the questions that you and I were discussing yesterday. Actually, when we were together yesterday morning, we were talking about the different types of literature in the Bible. And so in this case, we're trying to teach obedience to this strange Hebrew poetry. So it's really a different angle on just thinking about disciple making. How do you obey a song? Yeah. A psalm. Right. A prayer. Right. A praise. So stuff like that. Yeah, no, and that's the kind of stuff I'm excited about just to dive into, and it should be a lot of fun. So
And then also, I mean, there might be some weeks where it's a little bit lighter. The questions aren't quite so heavy. And often we've said, man, wouldn't it be nice? Because, sometimes in the office, we have conversations about what's going on in politics or what's going on in our community, the world. And so we have these conversations just about life and the world we live in, and how should we be thinking about some of the issues that are coming up. And Lord knows we've dealt with some issues in the last year. So, I mean, there may be some opportunities where this podcast, takes a detour, and we have some of those conversations, because we've had them here and said, man, I know there's people in our church who would love to just be in the room, partake in that conversation, and engage. So, I mean, there will be that opportunity to kind of hear the conversations that are happening sometimes, while also, whether it's in a comment section or just getting back to us, just to engage with us as well. Because that's,
Yeah. And I don't know if you remember, but that's really initially, that was your comment that gave rise to this idea was, you walked by one day and you said, we talk about so many things during the week that would be really good stuff to talk about, but it never goes anywhere.
Yeah.
And that was part of the initial discussion that led to this.
Yeah. Right. All right. So we've got enough time. Let's dive into Psalm 51. Joyce Musser was ahead of the curve, and she emailed Randy and I a question, or kind of thought she was having in the middle of the sermon. And she said, suggestion for your podcast. And we thought, man, it's perfect. We didn't even give you guys the email address yet. Didn't let you know what this was trying to do in too much detail. And she emailed us, and I thought, man, this will be a perfect way to kind of wrap up this episode. So, Randy, what was her comment about kind of the secular sermon?
Yeah. Some of you know Joyce, Mark and Joyce. They veteran ministers from, I think it was New York.
Long Island.
So Long Island. That's right. So she asked the question about this erroneous teaching that says, I'm struggling forgiving myself. And I'm having a hard time to forgive myself, as if that's an issue.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the gist of, now Joyce can follow this up, but I think that if I remember correctly, that was the gist of that email was, is that the kind of thing that we would address? So, Psalm,
and it is.
So Psalm, the Psalm is dealing with David's confession to the Lord. He says, against you and you only have I sinned. And he talks about that approach to God. I need you to have mercy on me. But now the question becomes, what's happening? I mean, what's happening in the thinking, first of all, I guess, and then we'll get to maybe the heart, but what's happening in the thinking of a person that says, I can't forgive myself for what I've done. Why is that bad thinking?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
That's really the issue. So, do you want to give your thought?
Well, sure. Yeah. Let me take a swing here. Well, I think one, I half wonder. So I'm always thinking I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. So when they say something like that, I wonder what they really mean. Have they sinned against themselves? Is that what they mean? Or are they just really saying, you know what, I'm having a hard time feeling forgiven? And
It's a good distinction.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think one of the reasons that comment, I think, is a little off is because it puts us in the position of authority. Like, we need to be the ones forgiving our own selves, as opposed to remembering that God is the one who's in that high position and place. And so Psalm 51, if God's the only one we've sinned against, it elevates our view of him.
Yeah, if he's I think that's a great distinction you just gave. If God is if he's the primary person that's been offended, because we talked about, I don't know if you remember, but we did talk about in the Psalm, there were other sins that David committed. He committed sins against, obviously, Bathsheba, Uriah, and I think even his general. So you can imagine a human being elevating themselves so much to think that the offense was against them. And the reason why confession is important is because we need forgiveness from the one we've offended.
Mm-hmm.
So the thinking is off. First of all, when a person is focused on, I can't forgive myself, meaning I'm still going to hold myself accountable to, but the offense, it's pointed in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
I can't forgive myself. Literally, I can't forgive myself.
Right.
I'm not the one that was offended.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be, that's why I say start with the thinking part. But even the heart issue of this, you think about it. I want to say, first of all, teaching people to do the things that Jesus said to do, of course, is built on a foundation of, okay, do you understand a theology of sin? That according to verse 5 in that, if I remember correctly, Psalm 51, verse 5, for instance, where, we talked about conception sin.
Mm-hmm.
We often talked about birth sin, but we're going even back further to conception sin. So underlying any walk with God is, what do I know about my relationship with God? And in this case, I need to know that my offenses against him are extreme. He's the one that needs to forgive me. The offense is against him.
Mm-hmm.
So for a person to get hung up on forgiving themselves actually is a sign in their heart that they don't believe the gospel. Now think about this. A person who says, I'm having a hard time to forgive myself for something that I've done, that's a person who ultimately is saying to God, I don't believe that the Lord Jesus Christ has provided forgiveness for me.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, it is an act of unbelief.
Mm-hmm.
People would not think that way unless they were taught that. They needed the foundation of, who have you sinned against? And you need forgiveness from him. So, and it is part of the Sunday discussion where I think I was trying to say, well, why would David be so passionate about this song? Why did he need God back in his life? Well, it's because, I have to have him or else I cannot flourish in his world.
Yeah.
So I would want ultimately to say to that person, if you're struggling even with the thought of forgiving yourselves, you're not believing the gospel. You need to humble yourself and accept a gift, a free gift. Now, if the person says, I can't believe that, I'm still holding myself, I don't know how they would finish the sentence. But a person who's still doing that is still saying to God, I do not believe you.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it does. And it just, I think you hit the nail on the head there.
Well, I hope so. But I wouldn't want to disappoint you on, what do you say?
Episode 0.
Episode 0 would be a bad time to fail.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
that's an epic failure.
Epic. Yeah, no, that's great. I think that's exactly, like I said, I think that's right on point with that comment that Joyce brought up, and that's exactly what we're trying to do here on this podcast. So it's a wrap.
Thanks for thinking about it.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
No, it's good. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we're hoping to launch this, or not launch, but really just get these episodes out every week as best as we can. Obviously there's going to be some weeks where it just doesn't work out, but like we said, touch point, engage in the middle of the week, and, live for the Lord beyond Sunday.
That's right. Good.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
See you all.
Thanks again for joining us on today's episode. And remember, our Sunday sermons are meant to lead us to a life of worship beyond Sunday.